ASIO. So that's who Mike Burgess is. From the ASD to Pine Gap, commercial operations, a commercial protection racket, I could say, then back to the ASD. You can pretty much know what he's going to say, I reckon, before he says it, but I'm going to go through it anyway. Now, I've got it here, so I'm going to shuffle in between bits of paper here. But he starts off by welcoming to the Ben Chiefley building and all the rest of it, honoured by the attendance of friends, colleagues and partners. And then he says, our Five Eyes partners are also here, including this one and that one, and his new friend, Shingo Yamagami from Japan, I guess, now that the Quad seems to be taking a lot of our military and intelligence attention. Now, it's important that he said that our Five Eyes partners are here, because that's, traditionally there's been a bit of a separation between ASIO, who look after domestic issues, and ASIS and the ASD. Now, having a former head of the ASD, and Pine Gap for that matter, as the internal spy chief, speaks a lot to the blurring of the lines between the agencies. And really, this is probably be expected with modern telecommunications and the way things are not so much local anymore. But still, increasingly, ASIO, along with ASIS, the Australian Security Intelligence Service, and ASD, the Australian Signals Directorate, and a host of others, are becoming intertwined as just branches of the Australian intelligence community under the direction of the Inspector General of Intelligence and Security, currently Margaret Stone. And I spoke to Margaret Stone a few weeks back when I was pointing out that she's the person who approved ASIO's, before she was Director General of Intelligence, she had the job of going through ASIO's adverse assessment risks of refugees, and is largely one of the keys, one of the steps, one of the links that kept refugees locked up in detention centres in Mantra and the Park Hotel. Now, the fact that they're acting as sort of branches of the Inspector General of Intelligence Security, IGIS, is important, because Mike Burgess's threat assessment has to be seen not just in terms of ASIO, but of the whole intelligence community. Now, just to remind you, it's ASIO, there's ASIS and the ASD, there's the Defence Intelligence Organisation, the Australian Geospatial Intelligence Organisation, and of course the ONA, the Office of National Assessments. So, let's just, think of it in terms of a threat assessment from the the intelligence community. So, going back to his speech, he starts off talking about how everybody's just ordinary visitors to BCB, I guess that means the Ben Chiefley building, are often surprised by how normal our people look. The Hollywood versions of spies and spy catchers are a long way from reality. He goes on and on and on. It sounds like basically a recruitment ad for ASIO. But after all that, after he gets his straps, he gets down to the point. And the point is, where am I? The threats continue. About COVID, about how everything went pear-shaped. For those intent on violence, more time at home online meant more time in the echo chamber of the internet on the pathway to radicalisation. They were able to access hate-filled manifestos. Geez, I thought Murdoch put up a paywall. But anyway, I don't think he means them. And attack institutions without some of the usual circuit breakers that contact with communities provides. Extreme right-wing propaganda, and that's where I want to stop for a moment. He talks about extreme right-wing propaganda. Let me just see, I'll skip through some of his rave here about adapting and all the rest of it. I'm not going to skip this bit. He's saying, so what is Australia's security outlook? The environment is complex, challenging and changing. The terrorist threat remains at, and this is capitalised, the only capitalised word in the whole speech,
Yes.
or his transcript anyway, so I can only imagine how he shouted it. The terrorist threat remains probable. No, not possible. Probable. We have credible intelligence and individuals and groups have the capability and intent to conduct terrorism onshore. Let me be clear, this threat is significant and it's not going away. He goes on to talk about ISIL, but then he goes to the right wing. Let's have a look. So-called right-wing extremism has been in ASIO's sights for many years, and last year I called out what we've been seeing. Since then, ideological extremism in investigations have grown from around 1/3 of our priority counter-terrorism caseload to around 40%.
Wow.
So it's gone from around 1/3 to around 40%, so say it's gone up 6 or 7 points. This reflects a growing international trend, as well as the decision to dedicate more resources. People often think when we're talking right-wing extremism, we're talking about skinheads with swastika tattoos and jackboots roaming the back streets like extras from Romper Stomper, but it's no longer that obvious. Today's ideological extremist is more likely to be motivated by social or economic grievance than national socialism. More often than not, they're young, well-educated, articulate and middle class, not easily identified. So I guess to